Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen right now so that we can see my presentation so I can begin. This is my presentation on the development of executive functioning in early childhood. So some relevant research on executive function. The first theme I found was the inhibitory control, which is also known as self-control. The inhibitory control is a child's ability to resist doing something tempting and also to do the right thing, helping children pay attention, act less impulsively, and stay focused on their work, which is from the executive resource. Children in this stage are learning to develop their ability to really control themselves and act out less and less impulsively so they can connect information, taking it in over time. In the article, Neuroscientific Insights, there's a psychological term. This is the ability to inhibit more automatic and reactive responses in favor of a reflective and flexible one, and is called inhibitory control. So that's another way it's explained. The research has important practical implications for children at risk for school difficulty, raising the possibility that intervention targeting executive functioning or EF skills in the context of math education may help reduce socioeconomic gaps in school success. So I got that from the Lazo 2020 resource. Here's some relevant research on executive functioning in terms of working memory. So that's something we've went over in this class a lot. And the working memory is the ability to keep info or information in mind where it can be used to make connections between the previous idea and their mental calculations to prioritize and bring in new information that's connecting together and pulling into long-term memory. This research has important practical implications for children at risk for school difficulty. Again, it may help reduce socioeconomic gaps in school success. Research states that these executive functioning power and coherence longitudinal data suggests that there is a widespread brain electrical activity during infant working memory processing, and that it becomes more localized during the early childhood working memory processing. So therefore, we're creating an understanding of working memory being a major role of executive function in the development of the young child's brain. We're seeing this transformation of the information they're taking in. Relevant research on executive functioning in terms of cognitive and mental flexibility. So cognitive and mental flexibility is the ability to think creatively and to be flexible to changing requests. This is allowing us and our children in the beginning to use their imagination to be creative and problem solve, and more of that creative side of their mind being that they're able to make new ideas on their own and being very flexible in their ideas and shifting their attention from their own perspectives to other children's perspectives or other adults in any given situation. The children are able to rely on this cognitive flexibility to play with their peers as well. When you're looking at a child in a classroom, they're able to hear what others are saying and take in their perspectives and adjust what is occurring in their experience in their head and take in what the other person is, the other person's perspective is, and they're able to reflect and gauge what they should do next in this given situation. So that's cognitive and or mental flexibility. I noticed that theme gave both those names separately sometimes, but more they were calling it either cognitive or mental depending on who the researcher was. So those sources were from the executive source and that article and from Zelazo et al. Here's some relevant research. I found this very interesting on identifying deficits in executive functioning. So when I was reading about this, I found a theme about that poverty, homelessness, and neighborhood crime, such as adverse early experiences, interfere with children's development and executive functioning, which is also hampering their ability to manage challenging situations. This came up a few times in my research, so I made sure to include this. But the next thing was we're seeing research behind brain development and the implications of the environment around children impacting their skill building. and their EF skills. It's implied directly with much research. Some atypical development deficits we can see for executive functioning and to look for in the classrooms or with our own children is attention deficit disorder, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, autism spectrum disorder, antisocial personality disorders, conduct disorders, developmental coordination disorder, fetal alcohol spectrum, learning disabilities. We're looking for all these to be able to place them in that executive functioning deficit category. Symptoms in at-risk youth and consequences of traumatic brain injuries is also something that's causing executive functioning deficits and disorders. So that came from McCabe 2010, page 275. Some of the areas of the brain involved that I found was the prefrontal cortex, and it's located and anatomically topmost and forward region of the brain. So here, that's from Raver et al. The brain function sends signals from this prefrontal cortex, and it extends to the cortical and subcortical areas atomically behind and below the prefrontal cortex. This includes the areas that control motor and emotional responses, which also connects to that emotion. Executive functioning role of the body and the brain. So Raver compares the brain and its executive function to a top-down and bottom-up approach. This helps me understand that children's brains have this ability to aid their performances in a more top-down fashion by prompting reflection and an understanding of the hierarchical nature of the task. That was from page 97 in Zelazo 2020. So the areas of the brain involved specifically for executive functioning is in that prefrontal cortex and also behind it in the cortical and subcortical areas of the prefrontal cortex. So I also have a picture that's labeling where those areas are in the prefrontal area, lower front side. How this topic impacts learning. So I found that this topic, it directly impacts learning because it's the child and how they are learning and how they're interacting and engaging with their emotions and their cognitive flexibility. So this creates an opportunity for us as teachers to make a safe place for students that they can actively engage their skills through proper scaffolding and effectively apply teaching strategies. So we're able to build on those children's previous experiences and create that working memory in their mind so that they can build off of the previous information they've received and ultimately impact them for the rest of their life because they're building on that over time. So the implications of this research provides a pathway that teachers can understand and further aid those children in developing their skills in self-control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility, which is their executive functioning. These are the 5 ways that I found that you can apply this knowledge in a classroom. So educators can understand what skills are needed to continually build their students' executive functioning skills. So to be able to build those skills and find teaching strategies, you have to understand it first. And you have to understand that this is part of, quote unquote, the curriculum in development of children. So information can be applied in the classrooms. This is the second one, through understanding of disorders. So you're looking for those deficits and seeing where children are struggling doing those simple, typical tasks in the classroom or controlling their emotions and behaviors. The third way that we can apply this in a classroom is teachers can apply strategies that will effectively guide children in understanding and expressing their emotions. So in our schools, we use teaching strategies for one, and we use CSEPL as a emotion control and behavioral understanding guide for our students. And we're able to use a lot of those activities. So if you want some more activity ideas, try the CSEPL website, CSEFEL, I believe is how you spell it. It's for behavior management and guiding children's emotions. The fourth one is aiding children in time management, which is a very difficult thing to build once you're older, and I figured that out. and schedule making. So we're using the calendars in the classroom, we're using the schedules, being able to show them what we're doing next and giving them that prompt of what's going to happen next. And number 5, teachers can understand that children are developing. With this knowledge, we are able to understand that there might be atypical developing children rather than what we see normally as normal development. There's still a time, there are still in time where they need patience and understanding. So us as teachers, we're able to see maybe they're struggling and we need to give them that time and patience to be able to understand them fully and to be able to help them depending on their developmental level and scaffolding to the next level. And that is the end of my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will be sharing this on the discussion board as well as sharing my PowerPoint just in case if you guys would like to see that as well. So I hope you guys have a good night.